The imperative mood in Hebrew is used to give commands, depending on the subject and who is addressed. And actually, it's a modified second-person future tense form that starts with future tense conjugations, removes prefixes, and adjusts vowel sounds. In general, it's an easy mood to form because it only affects the pronouns ata, you masculine, at, you feminine, and atem and aten, y'all masculine and feminine. Ata and at will have different conjugations because of the split gender in the pronouns. But atem and aten will be the same because all conjugations are taken from the future tense. The pattern to form the imperative mood and to give commands all relies on taking conjugations from the future tense. I already explained it in a previous video, which I recommend watching before continuing with this lesson. In essence, to form commands, all we do is take conjugations from the future in the you pronouns, that is, ata, at, and atem, aten, and remove their prefixes. We can practice with the verb lichtov, lichtov, to write. To make it imperative, we take its future conjugations from the you pronouns and remove the prefix. Chtov, chtov, write, you masculine. Chtevi, chtevi, write, you feminine. Chtevu, chtevu, write, y'all masculine or feminine. Basically, the imperative is the future form without the t prefix and a bit of vowel adjustment. Another verb we can see is ledaber, ledaber, to speak. In the imperative, its conjugations will be from the future without the prefix. Daber, daber, speak, you masculine. Dabri, dabri, speak, you feminine. Dabru, dabru, speak, y'all masculine or feminine. A different verb is a reflexive verb which will also use future conjugations with no prefix, like the verb lehitrachetz, lehitrachetz, to wash oneself. Trachetz, trachetz, wash yourself, you masculine. Trachatzi, trachatzi, wash yourself, you feminine. Trachatzu, trachatzu, wash yourselves, y'all masculine or feminine. This is how the imperative mood generally works in Hebrew, but other nuances should be known, like the negative imperative. When saying any negative command in Hebrew, we use the word al, meaning don't. I already explained this word in previous videos, and now we can see how it's used in the imperative. As a rule, the formation of a negative command will use a full conjugation from the future, and will keep the grammatical prefix, even for reflexive verbs. So, while affirmative commands remove a prefix, negative commands keep it, along with using al, don't. We can practice with the previous verbs. Al tichtov, al tichtevi, al tichtevu, al tedaber, al tedabri, al tedabru, al titrachetz, al titrachatzi, al titrachatzu. This is how the negative imperative works. Furthermore, Hebrew has some irregularities in the imperative, such as verbs with weak or hollow roots that have short forms and verbs with irregular future conjugations. In this case, we can look at each type of verb individually, because this way it's faster to understand. Verbs that have weak roots often have short forms when their prefixes are removed, because the root is generally made from two letters, which explains why they may have short forms in the imperative, like the verbs lakum, lakum, to stand or get up, and latet, latet, to give. Lakum in the imperative is kum, kumi, kumu. When negative, it uses full future conjugations with al. The verb latet behaves similarly. Ten, tni, tnu. When negative, it likewise uses full future conjugations with al. Hebrew also has verbs that are irregular in the future tense, and those have to be learned separately because they're very common. I explained some in my future tense video, but as a tip, in the imperative, irregular future tense verbs will generally use full conjugations when negative and affirmative, keeping their prefixes. This is done due to the irregular behavior of verbs with guttural letters, also having weak roots. One irregular verb is le'echol. Le'echol, to eat. In the imperative, its negative and affirmative forms will use full conjugations from the future, and that's the irregularity behind it. Tochal, al tochal. Tochli, al tochli. Tochlu, al tochlu. This is how irregular verbs work in the imperative, but one final concept should be known. In Hebrew, it's also possible to make informal commands that apply to many pronouns. The concept is similar to English, like saying, let's go, let's eat, and let's study, but such commands apply only to the pronoun we. In Hebrew, the concept extends to numerous pronouns, and it's done using the word bo. Bo. The word is actually the command come, you masculine, in the imperative, but when used with other pronouns, it translates as let's. The construction is bo, the verb, plus n, which will have an imperative conjugation. The word bo in itself can also be boy, you feminine, and bo'u, y'all masculine or feminine. So, this informal way of expressing commands extends to more than just conjugating verbs. By using this form, we use commands that are said in spoken Hebrew, so it's very useful to know. In such a manner, we can use the verb lallechet, to go, and say, bo nelech, let's go. Literally, bo means come, to a singular masculine subject, and nelech means we will go. So the literal meaning is come, we will go, but it translates as simply saying let's go, which is said only to a masculine singular subject. In other words, bo nelech means let's go to you masculine, boi nelech means let's go to you feminine, and bo nelech means let's go to all plural subjects. That's how this form works in Hebrew, and it's often heard in speech. We can practice with other verbs, like boi nochal. Let's eat, to you feminine. Bo'u nichtov. Let's write, applying to any plural subject. In conclusion, this form is very common in spoken Hebrew, and even though the verb form is in the future tense, the intention is similar to saying let's, because the gender and number of bo match the person you're speaking to. Overall, this is how the imperative mood fully works in Hebrew.